Hello everyone, welcome to an episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, we're going to go over how to value cards in Katsu when making your deck selection and certain picks within your deck. Whether you're running an aggro, a mid-range, or control style deck, you'll be able to appropriately set the kind of expectation for certain cards and how you value them and how you play them. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. I also set up a Patreon page starting this month in March. The Patreon page is literally just to support the channel. There are some added benefits. If you do tier 1, you're going to be able to get a special role in the Discord that allows you to submit deck submissions, which I will then review on the channel in videos. And then if you do like the second tier subscription, it allows you to get access to videos a day early. So definitely check that out. I'm not going to try to make it too extravagant. It's just another way to support the channel. You definitely don't have to do it. Do not feel obligated. Just something new I'm implementing. But yeah, join the Discord down below if you want to as well. We have a really good community and we'd love to have you whether you're a Ninja player or not. But yeah, we're going to get into the video today. We're going to talk about valuing cards in Katsu and sort of like how I look at valuing certain cards, both from an individual aspect, but also from a hand aspect. There's times in Katsu, even with his new cards, where you don't have the most ideal hand, right? You don't have a leg tap and a rise and thrust in hand at the same time, or you don't have a surging strike and a whelming gust wave in hand at the same time. And you have to value like, what cards do I block with? Do I even block at all? Do I block with 2 cards, 1 card, 3 cards, whatever it may be, and kind of sculpt your hand properly. That way, when you do want to have that big combo turn, you've mitigated and traded as much life as possible and kept the game close, so then you can pop off and really take control of the game. So I'm going to talk about individual cards aspect, and then I'm going to go over hand examples to kind of give you an idea of that. So hopefully this all makes sense. If it doesn't, please leave a comment down below, give me a question, and I'll answer it the best I can. So I'm going to give you 3 examples of cards and how I value them and kind of the criteria, right? So first, you're going to look at 3 things. How much does a card attack for? How much does a card defend for? And how much does a card cost? You could add in pitch value, but we're not going to do that. So it's 4 things technically. How much does the card attack for? How much does it defend for? How much does it cost? And what are the keywords on the card as it pertains to the Katsu archetype, right? So for every power the card has, every point of power is +1 for offensive capability. For every point of power it blocks for is a defensive capability. How much it costs also technically adds to the defensive amount because it affects your offensive turn. And then every keyword that you have on the card that is active is +1 attack, or +1 for attack value. So for Pounding Gale, when it is not comboed, Pounding Gale comes in for 5, so we're at +5 attack value. It blocks for 3, so we're technically still at +2 attack value. It costs 1 to play, so now we're at +1 attack value. And then it technically has no keywords active right now. Combo is only when it's comboed. So without being comboed, you're at +1 attack value. So what does that mean? It means most of the time with Pounding Gale, you're going to want to use this card when you're trading damage and trading life and trading value. You're going to want to use this on your offensive turn more than your defensive turn. If this ends up being comboed and you can double its damage to up to 10, it now has 10 power, which is +10. It has the combo, which makes it +11. And then its cost and block make it go down -4. So you're at +7 in attack value. So it's always most of the time going to be offensive-based cards. They're going to be a card that you want to hold in hand if you can to give the most value possible. Another card is Flusterfist. Flusterfist is a card that overall is also an offensive-based card. It comes in for 4 and it blocks for 3, so you're at +1 value offensively because it doesn't cost anything to play, so that doesn't get affected. So without being comboed, it's at +1 value. When it is comboed, it can be +2 or +3 value offensively. So hopefully that makes sense. And then finally, we have Hurricane Technique. By itself, Hurricane Technique is an equal value card. It can be used to block or defend with when it's not comboed. So if you can't combo it, it's basically a super flexible card. Since it attacks for 4 and blocks for 3, that gives it +1 attack value. However, because it costs 1 to play, it now goes back to even as far as the value is concerned. When it is comboed, which we can show here with the leg tap line really quickly, it becomes even more value. So as you can see, leg tap, definitely an offensive card. It attacks for 4, blocks for 2, so we're at a +2 value. Then it has a go again keyword, which gives it another +1, so now it's at +3 value, but then it costs 1 to play, so we're back down to a +2 value. So leg tap is +2 offensive card. Rise and Neath Rest by itself normally is 0, doesn't cost anything to play, attacks for 3, blocks for 3. So by itself, without being comboed, it's a 0 even value card. When it comes to getting comboed together, it now goes to a +3 offensive value because you're getting the +2 attack, so it goes up to 5, making it +2 attack value. But you're also getting the go again, which makes it +3. And then finally, Hurricane Technique, like I said, is 0 originally. When it's comboed, it comes in for 5, and it has go again, which gives it +2 attack value. If you can hit with it twice, it now is getting +6 attack value. So hopefully this all makes sense. So now you kind of have an idea on how to do it in a nutshell, like in a card by card basis. What does this mean for hands, right? And this is where the real value of this video comes in. Kind of talking about hands that aren't always like the most ideal hands in the world, and it's like, how do I approach this hand, right? Like, what is this mainly for, and kind of go from there. So a card like McGinty Release comes in for 4, blocks for 3, and costs 1 to play. So by itself, it is a 0 value card. So it's more flexible to defend or attack with. If it's comboed somehow, then it gets +1 value from being go again, +1 value from its added attack, and +1 value because you get to search Lord of Winds. So when it's comboed, it's a +3 attack value card, very powerful card. Pounding Gale we already talked about. It's +1 naturally. It's +6 when it's comboed. 100 Winds comes in for 3, blocks for 2, so that's a +1 value attack card. And then it has go again, which makes it a +2 value. If it's comboed, it's a +3 value. And then finally, you see our first defensive base card. Whelming Gustwave Blue normally comes in for 1 and blocks for 3. So it's technically a -2 or 2 defense value card. When it's comboed together, it gets +1 go again, so that bumps it up 2. So even when comboed, it's still a flexible card that you can either block or defend with. And the last 0 I have here is if you count Kadachi's as +1 value, then if you can Kadachi with it, and then use its final resource for an attack, it can gain an equal value. So looking at all this is kind of like stuff that at first you're going to have to like go through the reps in your head to figure out like what the value of the card is. But eventually you get this like second nature. So now you kind of talk about, okay, if my opponent is presenting 6 damage with this hand, what is the most ideal line to get the most value? So just looking at it, the best cards to block with in a nutshell technically are McGinty Release and Whelming Gustwave. However, we're all about trading value here. If our opponent's attacking for 6, we want to be able to block that 6, but then deal a greater amount of damage back. So if we block with McGinty Release and Pounding Gale and come back with Kadachi 100 Winds, we're technically -1 on damage, but we do get to draw a card. But do we care about that? Do you care more about trading value for damage or value for drawing that card? Whereas Pounding Gale and Whelming Gustwave will let us Kadachi Pounding Gale, which will then come in for 7 when we blocked 5 with 100 Winds and McGinty, and kind of go from there. So that we also could draw off of that. Or do we go Kadachi McGinty Release, which really wouldn't make sense. So in this situation, McGinty Release is probably the first card you're going to block with. And then you can kind of decide, okay, do I value that three attacks? So like if our opponent's coming in for 6 and we block for 3 with McGinty, we're going to be doing Kadachi 100 Winds, Pounding Gale, which will end up giving us 10 damage over the course of 4 links, possibly drawing a card. And we blocked 3 of his damage. So when we took 3, we went down to -3 in value, but then we dealt 10. So we went back up to 7 in value, or we dealt 4 more damage than he did, but than they did, and we also blocked 3 of the damage. So we're up 7 in value technically. At least that's how I view it. If you look at Pounding Gale and McGinty, we blocked all 6 of it out, and then we dealt 5, possibly triggering Mask. So we're -1 in value, but we get a whole card extra that we also can play again. So we potentially could be like +2 in value. This all sounds really complicated at first, but it kind of becomes second nature. Like to me, you have 2 lines here. You can either block with Pounding Gale and McGinty, try to force a Mask draw, and then kind of arsenal in your turn, or you can block with McGinty, come in for 10 damage, and be up 4 value. That's another way you could look at it. So it's just a way of looking at different hands. Here's a second hand, and we don't have the values here in front, so I'll give you a second. I'll pause so you can pause the video and kind of think of the values of each card in your head. And then we kind of look at the cards, right? It just took a pause for the people that want to pause the video. We already talked about leg tap. Leg tap's +2 attack value. Lure to Win definitely in this situation is not going to get its combo, not going to do anything. So it's -1 in defense value. But it can be used for Kodachis, which makes it +1 for attack value because you're going to get 2 Kodachis. So we're at +2 for leg tap, +1 for Lure to Wind. Flush the Fist we already talked about is a +1 value. And Salt the Wound is technically going to be a -1 value unless we can add to it. So like in this situation where our opponent is presenting 6 damage, what is the best line? We can look at it different ways. If we look at 2-card hands, the best line for sure is leg tap and Lure to Win because we can threaten 6 damage while blocking 6, potentially gain a mass draw, and then being able to go get Rise and Knee Thrust. At worst, we're dealing 6 damage, and we're trading life perfectly. Another option you could do is keep the Fluster Fist as well, so you possibly could then discard and go get Rise and Knee Thrust. Even if they block out leg tap, you're still dealing 8 +2 to Kadachi, so 10 damage with Lure to Win, leg tap, and Fluster Fist having blocked 3. So you go -3 after blocking 3 of the 6 damage, but then you attack for 10, which will allow you to go up 7 value technically over your opponent. It's just ways of trading damage. Now, this can change a little bit depending on what hero you're playing. Heroes that block out a little bit more efficiently, but it gives you an idea. Me personally, if my opponent was dealing 6 damage, I would probably block with Assault the Wound and then go Kadachi, leg tap, Fluster Fist. Or I would do leg tap first, keeping the 1 card, forcing them to block me first. If they don't block me, then you do. If they do block me, then you do Kadachi, Fluster Fist, and force a mass draw, possibly arsenaling a card, which would give you even more value. So that's what I would do. If you want to play really safe, you could block with Fluster and Salt, block all the damage out, and then do Kadachi, leg tap, and possibly draw a card off mask. It all depends on the game state. And then finally, looking at this line is even more complicated. So you have a Surging Strike, which is a heavily valued offensive card. It's still a +1 value, even when you account for cost, +2 value with the Go Again. Against release, like we talked about, is equal. Fluster is +1, and Torn Tempo is also +1, with a potential for +2 if it hits with the Go Again. So, like, what do you keep here if your opponent's presenting 6 damage? Personally, I would block 3 with the Fluster Fist. It does give me the least offensive advantage out of everything here. Yes, I can discard to go get Whelming Gust Wave, but more times than not, your opponent's not going to let you on a 3-card hand, or shouldn't let you on a 3-card hand let Surging hit. So probably would either block with Fluster Fist or Torn Tempo. It really depends on what you want to do. You could block with Torn Tempo for 3, take 3 damage, and then go Kadachi Surging Strike if they let Surging Strike hit. Or you just do, or not Kadachi, Surging Strike. If they let Surging Strike hit, go get Whelming, threaten another draw. They have to block that out. Or if they don't let Surging Strike hit, then you can choose to either play Fluster Fist out for another 4 damage, which is 9 damage, having dealt 3, gain dealt 3, or you can arsenal the Fluster Fist and save it for a 5-card hand next turn. So, kind of give you an idea, like most of the cards in Katsu are offensive valued. However, there are certain cards that are like the 0 value, like McGinty Release, Hurricane Technique, Blackout Kick, where it's like if you don't have their combo line, those are your flexible cards that you can use to block with, and then be able to create like more incremental value over time. And what you do is you create the incremental value over time, and then you go get you set up for your big combo turn. This is how I view cards, and it's kind of, at least at the very least, it's a way for you to say, okay, this is a new card in Flesh and Blood. Like, what is that card going to do for me? Like the easiest way to kind of talk about it is Be Like Water, which Be Like Water is a new card that's coming out in the Outsiders set. Be Like Water attacks for 3, blocks for 2, is a 0 cost. So it's technically a 1 value offensive card. However, if you pay 1, it becomes a 0 value. But if you make a Surging Strike, now all of a sudden you're going up to +2 value offensively. So it's an extremely offensive card. You're never going to want to block with this card ever. But then if you look at Bonds of Eternity, which normally Bonds of Ancestry, which comes in for 4, it costs 2 to play, and it's at red. And it blocks for 3. So just the 4 power 3 block makes it +1 value. But then when you account for the 2 cost. If it's not comboed, it's technically now a +1 defensive card. So it's more of a defensive card if you can't combo it. So just being able to think of cards like that will kind of help you know what card to block with in certain situations. As you look at these new cards and outsiders, use this method to kind of see like, okay, is this more of an offensive card? Is it a defensive card? When is it more of an offensive card? When is it more of a defensive card? And kind of go from there. Hopefully this makes sense. I definitely can do a more in-depth video on this later on if you all would like. I'm trying to keep this simple and kind of give you just like the base level of how I view it. Maybe we can go more in depth on a different video. But regardless, hope you like this kind of content. If you do, please do like, comment, subscribe. If not me, it's totally fine. Go to our Fleshbud Career, leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff so we can get more people seeing this game. And I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.